Hail. Hope all is well with you and yours. I first came to the runes in 2014 after a work accident. I was working at Michael's warehouse at that time, and I just came in on my shift and got just a really crappy order, a small order that was on multiple levels, and so I go up to the third level to start picking, and it's just trash. The pickers that were before me had just left plastic everywhere and empty pallets, and so it was a shitty way to start a day, and so I'm pissed off picking. I'm just not even bothering with. Well, initially I started to pick up the plastic, but I was like, fuck that, and then they'd been back picking because there was empty pallets, and so I went back to back pick too, and as I was turning around, I ended up falling through the grate, 15 feet, and landing on a steel beam on my torso, and yeah, it really fucked me up. So prior to this moment in my life, my family had moved from North Carolina, where we lived for over 10 years, and to Washington State, and with a 1 year in Virginia to help my father-in-law sell his vending business, and to save up a grip of money so we can buy some land and start homesteading. But instead, like, the trip across just stripped us of all our money. By the time we got here, we pretty much were broke, living on food stamps. Our girls, the two youngest that were traveling with us, got deathly sick. We ended up just staying in a motel for a long time. And yeah, so this whole process just stripped me of all my faith, because up to that point in my life, I've really lived by that belief, just trusting in the Spirit. And the whole move, everything was like, it flowed. We did readings, tarot readings. My wife did some rune readings and I Ching, and just all the signs. Everything was linking up for this to be the right thing. But by the time we got here, I was just numb and pretty much, I was, what the fuck, betrayed. I felt betrayed, maybe. So, and my wife is the only thing like that kept us going. Her strength like carried us through this, basically me just being a zombie in a way. And yeah, so, and that led us to a co-op where my wife found a flyer, and we called, and we ended up just living with some amazing people that became good friends, and on their land, on a tent. And after months, this helped us ground and start, I was just doing farmhand work, and Judy was she was doing something. We were bringing in some money. We were able to with help, we were able to get into an apartment, and so here it is in November. I'm working at Michael's, and this whole time I'm still kind of numb, and just, I don't know, I busted my drum head, and like, just, it was one of the lowest points in my life spiritually, I would say. And so yeah, I was a wreck. I was numb, kind of unfocused, angry, really angry. And that's what brought me to Michael's and to my fall, which landed me in a 3-day coma and 17 days in the ICU, and just months after on my back. Yeah, so that's the context from which I came to the runes, because that December and Yule, that Yule season, I remember like just sitting on the bed, kind of just totally drugged out on painkillers, and my wife did a rune reading. She was gonna pull a rune, and I've studied like the esoteric and occult traditions and practiced for 30 plus years, and the runes have been on my list of things to study, because I like to jump right into something full on. And so she pulled an Algiz, and like right there and then, even in my drug-induced fog, everything clicked. Because when we first moved to the apartment, I had reskinned one of our drums with elk, and because we were trying to connect the elk at that point. We'd been to Washington and tried to see elk. We hadn't been able to see elk, so so I restrung one of our drums, and I skinned, and I had some trimmings from the elk, and so we got a piece of it, and I cut it, and right there and then I drew an Algiz, being that that's one of its connections, the elk sedge, but I associate it definitely with the elk. So that's my introduction to the runes. Now, for the first month, I'm basically just on my back against a heater, as just a way. It's the only way I could get any sleep, pretty much, and I'm doing some stretching on my back, and eventually, because I've studied yoga for 30 years as well, and I'm getting up to, so I can stay for a little bit. After a couple months, I'm like able to sit and hold myself up without being just in agony or sickening, and so I'm starting doing stretching, doing some asanas, and this whole time I'm studying the runes. Everything I can read, every video I can find, every audio thing, talking to people online, talking to my wife. I just inundated myself with the runes. And through that process, I came to Edgar Thorson's, one of his books, where he gave like 2 pages on rune yoga. And it was like perfect, because I've studied, traditional Indian yoga for a long time, and I was working with the runes. So it was like just doing these static standing postures that got me up on my feet. And it was hard. It was hard to like my balance, like my legs were all weak. I wasn't atrophying completely, but I was pretty weak, and it was dizzying and difficult to stand for a prolonged amount of time. And so the runes, working with these sthatas, these like stances and the runic postures, helped me to build strength and balance and endurance and energy. Like it started to, and it helped me, because it was about that time where I was like, I needed to get off the opiates, because it was fucking me up, and like having a hard time pooping, and that was a disaster, because part of my intestines were cut out, and so it was like painful, and so at that time, like as I was getting into rune yoga, starting to get onto my feet, I also ended up like weaning myself off opiates, but by like utilizing herb as a helpful way to work with the pain. So that's like the beginning of my rune healing process. Started with the physical body. Like it was really about just getting me up, helping me with balance, helping me with dealing with pain, because once I got off the opiates, I mean, herb is helpful, but it doesn't like, not that kind of pain. So like help me just be with the pain and to breathe in it, which I still have trouble with, even now, but it's like a process that began back then. And it's something that I practice and work with continuously in my life, since that accident. Cause I haven't really been 100% since then. But okay. So working with the runes, like rune yoga helped me get to my feet. And then at the end of 2015, I began a 9-month runic initiation. And that's where the runes started to shift to address more like psychological healing and yeah, issues with my mind, and working with, more than just the physical energy, and realigning me spiritually. Because yeah, I was a wreck. I mean, literally. So I work with the tarot for a long time, and not just as a divinational tool, but actually as a cultivating, like the greater arcanic cards represent the path of the adept. And this was literally the tower for me. Like, that's where I was at on my path. And it literally, I fell from, not a tower, but I fell from the 3rd floor down to the 2nd floor. Yeah. So that's what these, getting back to like the healing, I'll be talking about the physical healing, of course, but also the psychological and the spiritual and the energetic. Like, those are a lot of what these videos are going to be about. And with the next video I'm gonna do is on Isa, and how Isa helped me recognize the root of some anger and rage in my life, and how it helped me work with it. Yeah. So, till then, be well and be blessed.